Welcome, Maniacs.
To this week's Mayhem.
I'm Jay.
And I'm Courtney.
I almost just said I'm Courtney.
I mean, we can just switch personalities for today. You can be tall. We're going to change things up a bit today and do not our normal of talking about...
Well, we're fighting.
In the ring. Monday Night Raw on a Friday. We're turning things to a bit of book talk because everybody has been talking about ONYX STORM. Basically, we will go full in depth with the whole series in a little bit, but until then, we are, of course, as you know, really big nerds.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a huge compliment in our factory, but it usually scares people. And the funny thing is, I read comics since I was a kid. Like, our dad used to collect comics since we were, like, younger, and I read them when I could start reading words that weren't just A, B, C. I wasn't a big reader until middle school.
Yeah, I have always been a reader.
Mm-hmm. My mom used to, you remember how you had to do, like, the accelerated reading and, like, all the tests? I used to get grounded so much because I didn't like being forced to read. I don't like being told things to do, so.
Our pillow has a fur. I'm sorry, I got distracted.
It had a toupee.
I've always, like, my mom always read with me. My grandma, was a huge, book person and read constantly. Almost every woman, except for my sister, because she's more crafty.
My mom tried. My mom's favorite series was Junie B. Jones.
It's on one of my first lists. It's on one of my lists of my first series that I got into.
I just didn't like having to be I just didn't like having to be told, hey, you have to sit down and read like 30 minutes every night. And now if we knew how much time I actually spent reading a night, it would be kind of astounding, but I just hated it. And I was like, my lowest score, I was really good in reading, but like my lowest scores were always like the accelerated reading and stuff because I never wanted to do it.
And see, mine was always highest in reading because I always read.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because, like, everyone thinks of, like, their first books, like, like Junie B. Jones. People used to read Goosebumps.
Yeah. The Warriors.
The animal changing people. Oh, my gosh, what was that series called? They always had the weird books where, like, it had the kid turning into the animal, like, morphing. It was the Animorphs? Wasn't that the name of the book series?
Was it?
I think so. It was something along those lines. But those are your generic,
Miss Penegrin's Home for Peculiar Children. I read that one a lot, too.
See, and that was, like, what I read in middle school.
Narnia is one of the series that really made me fall in love with reading.
Mm-hmm. Well, that would be, like, your older, like, grade level. So you have, like, Percy Jackson. You have,
I read it in elementary school.
4th and 5th grade, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, like, you had Harry Potter, you had Percy Jackson, you had Narnia, all of those classics. Ironically, I had a girl who was like my best friend, super sweet, but her family was very religious, and she wasn't allowed to read any of those books.
That was such a big controversy, especially up north. Because I did a lot, I did half and half Florida and Colorado for elementary school, and so seeing that huge difference in northern and southern education styles.
Well, now it's universal. They're taking books out of schools,
which
is just stupid.
I am a big advocate against taking books out of school. It makes me really mad that we have red listed or black labeled, whatever you guys want to call it, so many books that it's a freaking book.
But like the frustrating thing part, I get it. Like there's some stuff in history that's not great, but it's still part of our history.
You can't take history away no matter how many statues you tear down.
But the other hard thing is it's like there's a lot worse things going on in schools than what kids read.
For sure. Yeah, about big
Just push the rug further.
About fantasy though. I mean, even with history, I think it's always been such just a bleeder. Like, why are you going to take this out? We need to know this.
Well, and that's the thing is like history is something that you're supposed to know so you don't repeat it. But then you have kids but like a kid reading a book isn't going to be like, I'm going to do this again.
Oh, for sure.
But you have video games that are 10 times worse. Like, I know everyone plays them, but there's like you see a lot worse things in video games nowadays than you do in books.
I got my ass kicked by like a 5-year-old in Fortnite. Are you kidding me?
Exactly. And that's the thing is like you have such young kids allowed to play these games and everything, and parents are fine letting them do that, but everyone's like, no, these books need to be taken out of school.
No.
It's hard. And I get it. Like there's some reasonings behind it that we might not know, but it's just that should not be the focus.
Big Brother's literally happening.
Yeah.
And that's saying something, folks. Let's stop this and realize that books aren't our problem here, and learning big words and hiding away in books is not a bad thing.
Well, and that's the hard thing is like most of the time in most schools, you'll be in middle schools and there's kids who still have like a first grade reading level. But if we're going to just take away books from them, you're not going to give them the options to read stuff. Like I'm very particular about the books that I read. I like reading, but I like reading certain types of books. I'm not going to go and pick up like a historical biography. If I had to in school, I would have done it. But or if there is a person that I have an interest in, maybe. See, it's not my like go-to.
Philosophy.
Yeah,
I read a lot of philosophy books. I love Plato. I really like Plato.
Like in my head, I was like, that's not a book. And then I realized what you're talking about.
Philosopher. But, you know, and I read a little bit more diversity in books. I mean, obviously nowadays I'm more into, you know, my fantasy land.
Smut. But then again, that's the same thing. It's like you still read books. That is like a key thing. Like, and there's some people who love historical fiction. There's some people who like certain areas and other places. It's just some people who read like historical fiction is a normal thing. And anytime anybody at least reads the book is more impressive because not as many people do anymore.
I want to look up the statistics really quick, about what the average amount of books people read. Because I did this the other day, and I can't remember the actual number, so I want to be specific with this one because it's honestly astounding how little and few books adults read.
Well, at the same time, I'll like have people talk to me and they're like, wow, it's impressive that you like read that book, one, so fast, and two, like that most people are astounded that I can read a book fast, but they're also astounded that I read. There's some people like, I just hate reading. That's like the thing is like people are like, our reading puts them to sleep or reading makes them like not want to focus.
This is sad. How many books do you think the average American reads per year?
Probably like less than 5.
So the average American reads about 12 books per year. However, the median number of books read is 4.
Okay, so I was completely off.
The median is 4.
Such low expectations.
But you're right on.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And I read 5 books last week.
Exactly. I mean, I'm more like I've read 4 books this year, 5 books this year.
Oh, that's...
It's a month.
Scary.
It's not even a month. 1. And 2, I'm in the middle of a move.
Yeah, that's true.
Because, you know, I go through, so I'm not as fast as Courtney is in reading. But, you know, I can read like a 1,000-page book in 2 days with a busy lifestyle.
Which is still very fast regardless.
Yeah.
Like, that's still fast for an average person. Like, that's the thing is, like, you have people who read, but it's also, do they comprehend or retain it? I'm really bad at retaining things, but if I reread something or if I, like, hear about it, I'm like, I know exactly what you're talking about. That's where my, like, brain...
That's why I like reading the book, and then I like to listen to the audiobook after.
I can't do that.
I love it. Or I'll do it in tandem, too, just because, 1, it helps with pronunciation of names.
Yeah.
2, like, so some authors, when they separate, and I can't stand this, and I think you're similar in this, but when they switch point of views in the middle of, like, I'm okay with switching point of views, like, chapter to chapter, but if you're in the middle of a chapter and it switches 5, 6 point of views, and you know what book I'm talking about because there's something about a glass throne. Love it. But, girl, be more specific when you changing your names.
Yeah, like if they don't specifically label that they're the ones changing. Because I've had it, I like it when the chapters change between point of views. I've had it where it's like half and half, but like I've never quite had one where they don't label it, and so you're like reading, you're like, that doesn't sound like her. And you're like, oh wait, that's him.
Yeah, and it's like
I would burn the world for her. I wonder who that is.
Exactly, and like I will cast it in shadows and darkness.
Mine. Just essentially, they just go
male growl.
It's like a chihuahua.
I know, but every time I hear every time I read, I'm like the growl.
The purr. But no, that's like the sad thing, and it's so funny because when that was a huge thing with TikTok going away, is people are like, because BOOKTOK became a huge thing on TikTok.
Oh, it's huge. I mean, I love BOOKTOK.
Exactly. And so people were like, where are we going to go? Because nowhere else really has as much of like a discussion theory as TikTok did. And that's something that made me so sad to see because people are like, where are we going to go to find people like us who read like we do?
I was going to say, it's the forums, it's the blogs, but it's short, sweet, and it's people who are alike, because it's really hard to find readers, because you can't just go to someone and go, hey, do you like fairy smut?
The reason
do you like dragons?
So in high school, I remember my best friend, she was a huge academic scholar, but she wasn't a big reader.
Yeah.
And so I remember, like, there'll be days when I would come to school and like, hey, you should read this. And then she comes back like a week later, I read the book. And I was like, yes, here's the next one. And so it's gotten her onto things to where now she reads all the books that like we do. But that she never would have read them if I hadn't been like, read these books.
And I'm still waiting for her to read this book, just to let you know.
You want to know what the first one I gave her was, or one of the first ones I gave her was Vampire Academy.
Okay, I was going to say, it was either Marked or Vampire Academy.
I think I gave her both around the same time.
Yeah.
But the one I gave her first was Vampire Academy, and she like read it so fast because her and her sisters all got onto Twilight, which was whatever, because Breaking Dawn came out.
I got back into reading
in high school.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny.
Middle school.
Yes. Well, Breaking Dawn came out in high school, the last one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes.
And so we all went to like the midnight the midnight opening for the release for the book. But it's funny because Twilight. Did you know that book came out in 2005?
Did it really?
It came out in 2005.
It got really popular in 2007.
Yes, because I ironically became a library aide in 8th grade.
Yeah.
And everyone thought it was funny because I wasn't as huge of a reader. I would read, but not quite that much. And then the funny thing is like I would see the things that people would check out and return often. So I'd be like, well, this book got returned, like checked out like multiple times. What's the biggest? And one of them was Twilight.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll read it. And then I like went on a binge of a bunch. I would just start reading books that people would check out often, and I never thought I would actually do that, but it ended up being fun. But then I went back and reread the Percy Jackson series. I went back and reread Narnia. Started reading Lord of the Rings, which that took me 4 tries to read, and then Twilight, and then I reread Harry Potter all over again. Mm-hmm. And Harry Potter was definitely, I was the generic kid where Harry Potter was one of the first series that I fell in love with.
I loved Harry Potter.
But Narnia was a very close second.
You know, I was actually thinking about doing a reread of Harry Potter.
I usually do every other year.
I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about that after I do, because I have the Lord of the Rings trilogy and that beautiful hardback cover that I need to crack open.
You would probably get into, like I said, I started reading that in middle school, and I didn't successfully read it all the way through until the end of high school.
Yeah.
Because it was just so...
It's just going to be such a change of pace for what I read.
Yes.
So it's going to be hard to stop. But that's kind of like why I read Alice. Alice is a fantastic book. Mm-hmm. It is dark. It's brutal. It is definitely one of those books where you think very hard about decisions. Mm-hmm. I love that series. Through the Looking Glass was fantastic, and the Red Queen after that to finish it off. I mean,
well, that's the difference of like our younger books and stuff. That's the difference that I think that was so hard about Lord of the Rings is you can tell the time period it was written in.
Oh, back in the day.
Well, it was in when was that book written? But I think that's what made it so hard. Is like most of the books that like even with Harry Potter, if that was based in the 90s. But it was written, like the time frames of all the books that we grew up reading, they were written in a more modern age.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings was written in such a different time period, and I don't think I fully appreciated it until I watched the movie Tolkien.
Take a guess.
Wasn't it 1920s? Earlier or older?
Older.
1910s?
Or younger, I guess.
We did say that backwards, and I still went the opposite of what you said, so
it's
even worse. Didn't listen to what you said. I was like, oh no, I was wrong. It's like, but I knew what you meant when you said that. That was the sad thing is I knew what you said, not what you said out loud. 1910s.
Younger
than 1910? Old, that's older, isn't it? 1940s?
Younger.
1950s?
Yes.
Okay.
1954.
Okay, but still.
The Hobbit came out before.
Yes. Okay, so when did the
37.
Hobbit... That might be what I'm thinking of towards. Because...
That was fantastic and it made me very happy. I hope you know that.
I had I think it's what I'm thinking of is when he was alive.
Yeah.
And I think that's where my brain was like, he was born in this time.
Yeah, no, J.R.R. Tolkien was a man that was way before his time.
Yes, and he started writing it when he was like in college.
Yeah, that man was way before his time. I think he was a time traveler.
That'd be pretty cool.
He's
like, Benjamin Button, we come back.
That's what I'm telling you though. Like this, it just the stories, and you think about like in how the Hobbit came out before Lord of the Rings.
Well, because the Hobbit's prior to it.
That's what I'm. Yeah, no, but like it doesn't. How did you create that in your mind?
But the funny thing about it is the respect of women in it, of the difference between those two, is also in that time frame, which is hysterical because he was still writing where like the women elven are powerful, but he couldn't quite just say that. It had to be the whole entire like.
Yeah, because he still had to make men the priority.
Yeah. So it's pretty interesting. I definitely think it's worth reading. I definitely think it's a classic series, and I think it's very slept on.
Yes.
But you can tell the time period that it was written in.
For sure.
And what age he was, which is crazy. Because it makes you think back to, like, when you read, like, your classics of Mark Twain and stuff like that. They have the same kind of, it's the same kind of thought process, just this one's more fantasy, which is crazy. Especially with, like, dragons and all that stuff. That's even crazier.
Which?
Smeagol.
Which he's gonna, I'm doing it. He's going to be at MegaCon next week.
And she's going to be the first one to tackle people saying, my precious, my precious. I dare you, just like caresses. I wonder how often he's had his face like caressed and saying, my precious.
You know, me not being a touch person, I'd still do it.
I'd pay you.
He's a little man.
Come here. Just like cuddle him.
Hop up.
But
Puppies?
Yes. So when it comes to not petting people's faces in books.
His wife is beautiful too. Have you ever seen his wife?
Yes.
Okay. She's there.
I wonder if she loved him more when she saw what he looked like, what he could look like.
Oh my God.
I won in life.
It's incredible.
Anyways, no, it's crazy. And that's the other crazy thing is to think of like when Lord of the Rings, the movies came out, that was still like a different age. It's like CGI and they still did wonderful.
Once again, another series that I'm glad it came out then, because if it was nowadays, it would have to be so political and have to be so add humor for no reason.
I think that's what happened with The Hobbit.
Yeah.
I'm still angry about that.
Yeah, I mean, the graphics, CGI, I loved it, though. I thought they did a great job. The
dragon looked amazing.
Exactly. I think that they changed his story.
Smog. Wasn't his name Smog?
I don't know, but there's a helicopter landing next to us.
Blackhawk. Damn, maybe that's not something I should say at this time frame. Anyways.
I'm not going to tell you where my brain just went, because it was not there.
Fish.
It was Jennifer Aniston.
Why would you go to Jennifer Aniston?
Playing charades from,
Oh, didn't she have Black Hawk Down and she was trying... I forgot about that. Wasn't that with Jimmy Fallon? Wasn't it his, like, charades game?
No, it was a movie. It was, wasn't it?
Oh, then I'm, like, not thinking of the right
The
thing.
one with Jason Sudeikis? Meet the Millers?
We're the Millers?
We're the Millers?
That's Jennifer Aniston.
That's what I said.
Yes. What am I thinking of?
BOOKTok.
ADHDers, welcome to the club. Anyways,
so where our minds go.
BOOKTok, like I said, with TikTok and BOOKTok and all that, that was a huge thing to where I've become influenced reading certain books because of it. And Jay's stripping her shoes. What socks do you have on?
They're moons.
At least they're matching. Mine are not. The only thing that I think is a downfall of BOOKTok and TikTok is spoilers.
Oh my God. ONYX STORM, the people who read it faster than you was...
I paced myself and read that book in 48 hours. Given I did not have a life at the... I still don't have a life at the time, but I didn't have a life. Jay was in the middle of moving. And so she was in the process of still trying to read it. And I am the worst person to keep a secret. And so the fact that I had to just not talk about it with anybody, because my other friend, who is a huge part of the series, she is still rereading the other ones.
Yeah.
And then she's already read them. I waited specifically to read the first two books a week prior to the release, and I still read through them faster than the week.
I know. And it's funny because I told you about, because I read the series last year, the first two books.
Well, and that's when it started becoming really big on BookTok too.
Yeah.
With the ACOTAR series and all of those. That was the one that everyone started reading. ACOTAR and Throne of Glass, all of those series by Sarah J. Maas. And then everyone's like, if you
Crescent
like
City.
these, then you need to read this series.
Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and now ONYX STORM. But I was telling her and how I would explain the books to you in Olaf style.
Oh, yeah. Which is exactly what Endarda does when she tells everybody about her story.
Yes, spoilers upon spoilers upon spoilers. So if you really want to read the book or you have not read the book yet,
stop watching now.
Please stop watching. We appreciate you watching, but we are going to ruin the book for you. Mm-hmm. We are not doing it on TikTok. We're not doing any spoilers there. Mm-hmm. This is the only place, and we waited specifically a week to do this to give you guys some time.
Well, that's the thing is, like, that for even, like, when I was in the process of almost being done with the book, I was halfway through on the first day. And I was like, I need to calm down. I need to not get through this because there's going to be 2 years before this next book's released.
Rebecca Yarros writes so freaking well. And you've read one of her series when you were younger.
I did. I've actually read 2 of her other series.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And those all end on happy endings. If you want to read other books, they're great.
If you want to, I get emotionally invested with my books. I don't know how not to get my heart fully invested in a book.
I know what those were.
Mm-hmm. So I get emotional, you know. I'm a big crybaby when it comes to my characters, which is funny because if you meet me and I'm like, ha, death.
And see, I'm not, like, I'm attached to characters, but I also don't, like, I don't cry over them. I've gotten better, so I'm like, that really sucks, but then I, like, move on, and I fill with other books.
I have been reading books, come out of the office just in tears, and Courtney just looks at me like I'm a full-out moron.
I get it. I just don't have that, like, I can't.
Liam dying was terrible.
Liam was a hard death.
And that's one of them I came out of the office. That's one of them I came out of the office, and you were like, what's wrong with you?
Yes, I remember you talking about, but the thing is, I remember Carrie talking about it, too. Mm-hmm. So let's start with Fourth Wing. So Fourth Wing is the first book in the series. Basically, the theories that people have starting from that first book that already lead into it, but the thing is, the biggest theory that people talk about is that the scribe, Justina
is telling the story.
She's telling the story, and the hard thing is, she shows these are the memories in scribe. Like, she talks about how these are, like, the people who die or sacrifice themselves.
They're transcribed. And Sarah J. Maas did admit that. Mm-hmm. Or not Sarah J. Maas, I'm sorry. Rebecca Yarros came out in an interview because she was asked about that, and she said, well, what does the first page of the first book say? Mm-hmm. And it's Justina.
It's in this one too. Like, it's, I think it's
all correspondence.
It's every first chapter of every book. She starts it.
But it's specifically the first book. She did it because the like you were just saying, the biggest theory in the series is that everyone's going to die, and Justina's telling the story to someone who's important. Yeah. To the 2 main characters, which is Xaden and Violet. Violet Sorrengail is the main character, and that's who everybody thought the story was. Point of view is from, which most of it is.
It's basically like the point of views of the main characters, but it's written by one of her friends who, like, wrote the thing. I guess it's not on the first page.
Transcribed.
Yes.
I like that word a lot.
Listen here.
I don't know what's wrong with me.
But the crazy thing is like the start of this book. But the other thing is the funny thing is I didn't really pay attention to the first, like, top letters when I started reading the book. And then I kept, it was like, okay, there's one, once I got to, like, a couple chapters in, I was like, there's actually a lot of these, so maybe I should go back and stuff. I had to go back and reread every first chapter, like, first thing. And I was like, oh, these are important. But I read that one. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. So this is, like, basically retelling the story. But I didn't know, that was the only one I paid attention to. But I didn't realize until the story went on, I was like, oh, this is going to end badly. And then I didn't realize how badly it was going to end. And then, so Fourth Wing, she has to cross over the
parapet.
Yes. So fun fact, I suck at pronouncing things. I'm even a worse speller. And so anytime I give pure entertainment to Jay because I cannot actually say the words. And she's like, whatever. Parapet. She's like, that word. And I'm like, that one. And then she stutters over hi.
Leave me alone. I have speech impediment.
But you corrected me on words that I can't say, and that's the funny part about it. But
your hair. It's tagging me.
So that book is already heartbreaking. She meets Xaden, he falls in love with her. Great story.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because you have deaths in the beginning.
Everyone dies.
Parapet gets at least like 4 people because you have the one kid
But you know what
Sips.
theory from that part that I recently watched on BookTok, and it didn't click with me. The reason why Xaden said you better hurry, little Sorrengail, to get across is because he knew the intention of Jack Barlow trying to murder her. And that's one of them that I was like, God dang it. We knew what his premonition was from the beginning.
He also knew her intentions about how sexy he was from the very beginning.
Yes,
too.
that part I knew. And then the whole, that's why he always smirked whenever she was with Dane and like knew her disdain, her like thing of when he was saying things.
Yeah.
He knew her intention of like she wanted to survive at the thing, and that's why he was always smirking in the corner because he was like, ha, she's telling you off.
Yeah.
Speaking of Dane, he's your favorite character.
Who's my favorite character?
No, I said he's your favorite character.
Yeah, he's.
I don't mind Dane.
I don't mind Dane really.
I don't hate him as much as everyone else does. If there's one character that needs to die more than what's her face from Harry Potter, Professor. Oh my God, Pink Lady.
Oh my God, what is her name?
I'm blanking. I'm gonna think of it as soon as we continue the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
If there's one person that needs to die more than her, it's Jack Barlow. The fact that he can go and come back is the most annoying thing ever in this entire world.
Look what I typed in, and it came up perfectly.
Harry Potter's evil lady, Dolores Jane Umbridge. The demon herself.
I was trying to type fast. I was like, what's the fastest way I know that that Google will understand me?
Who needs to die more than Umbridge is Jack Barlow.
Jack Barlow, you suck big time.
He's like the spawn that like just keeps respawning. That
How did he kill his dragon and not die? Unless they weren't truly bonded.
Your dragon didn't die.
His dragon?
Oh,
he killed his dragon.
Well, he killed his dragon once he was already in.
Venom.
Whatever. When he was already the bond was severed. Technically. I guess. Which makes me wonder, would she die if...
Sigale.
Would she die if Xaden died? Because he's Venom? But Jack Barlow didn't.
That's actually a very good question, because technically since Taryn and Sigale are bonded, that means that if something happened to Violet, that would kill both of them, which would then kill Xaden. But since Xaden's a Venom, I'm not sure how that works, because...
Jack Barlow didn't die.
But he still had somewhat of a connection with Sigale. And
I'm assuming Jack still had somewhat of a connection with her, but I think that like that connection was dimmed.
Yeah.
And therefore it's not going to be what kills them.
Yeah. I guess, yeah.
That would be the only theory that would make sense, because that's not addressed at all.
I have a question. It's not, hold on, I'll leave that question.
Well, how do you just say that and not continue with it?
Because it's not about this book, it's about the next book. Actually, third book. It's about the third book. So we'll get there with my ONYX STORM questions.
Well, I mean, the first book is basically them training, them getting realized they're all setting themselves up for death. People fall in love. She wants to screw him when the dragons are screwing, but I feel like the dragons open that connection to push them together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that definitely
Olaf, describe that.
This happens. Listen up, guys. Hold on. Roll up the sleeves.
Punch
It's fine. But I do, that was another fan theory. It's like people think that the dragons open their connection, because how did they not feel it the rest of the time they were together?
True.
And so they were like, we want to be you two together. He's fitting their thing now. Then you move on to Iron Flame.
Iron Flame is when Violet really comes into her powers, and
Lightning.
Liam, that's when she gets freaking tortured in a dungeon for 5 days.
Yeah, that one's pretty rough.
That was rough.
And then she sees Liam.
Then she sees Liam after he's dead.
I would have been screwed if I was Violet, because she had to keep the secret about what happened with them and the true secret of Liam from all of her friends. I'd be like, hey, there was something really bad happened, but I can't tell you what. And then everyone's pushing me. Okay, fine, I'll tell you. I would be the worst secret keeper ever.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I kept seeing her. And that's where everyone kept thinking her second signet was the seeing the dead or having connection
Yeah,
that way.
yeah.
Other people thought that she could like project things.
Clairvoyant?
Yeah, I guess. Kind of like that midway connection, which
Yeah.
is why people thought the
Yeah.
Vinin, whatever they are, really wanted her.
Vienna sausages.
I'm going to start calling them that because that makes them seem fun.
And then the second book's also where the flyers come into play, the griffins.
I would love a griffin. That'd be pretty cool. A dragon definitely is like top tier, but I wouldn't say no to a griffin.
I wouldn't say no, but I would definitely choose a dragon.
Yeah, but if I didn't have the option of dragon, I'd be like, all right, I'll take it. It looks pretty cool. Just don't scratch me.
Yeah.
Those things look a little scary.
Yeah.
But can we talk about Kat?
Oh my god, the emotion wielder. Yeah, she, at first, I was like, I hate you.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, yeah, that's definitely the feeling I've
oh yeah, she's definitely, especially in the third book, going into it, she's really grown on me.
Mm-hmm. But it's hard too because when I can only imagine being told this is going to be the person you're marrying. This is what's happened. You grow with them living in your palace for so long, and like you have that connection, but you never had that like.
But she emotionally toyed with him the entire time.
And that power, can you imagine how? I would be so screwed.
I would be.
I would never know what I'm doing but also at the same time be like, get angry.
Oh, it would not be.
It would be a really bad power to have. I don't know what would be worse, having that or being able to read someone's mind.
I mean, I think being able to control emotions would be a more effective power. I think being able to read minds. Okay, are we doing like Professor X being able to read minds, or are we talking like?
I guess in this series,
like Edward read minds.
Well, I guess in this series, would you rather have Dane or her powers? Which one?
Dane has to touch people.
Yes, but I'm just saying, in the series, out of the two powers, I feel like would be really bad to have. I don't want to have to touch somebody and see their entire mind. Professor Xavier would be much more invasive.
I have a question, but it's pertaining to the third book I just thought about.
What?
So Salone had to touch Dane.
Mm-hmm.
Who was Dane touching? Who was Dane giving?
He was sending the power to Violet. No, Brennan.
So what does Dane know now?
Well, that's what everyone thinks, that Brennan's going to be the betrayal character, because Rebecca said that there was going to be one sibling betrayal.
And Dane...
But she didn't specify which sibling. She said that
Dane... Yeah, and she didn't say which... Yeah, exactly. So we have several of them.
Mm-hmm.
But also, Dane was inside Brennan's mind.
But I thought Dane had to touch, like, the face. Wasn't it, like, touch place specific?
Wasn't he on his neck?
I thought it was arm to arm because they left a mark on the arm.
Salone was touching his arm.
And I thought he touched the arm.
I thought he was grabbing the back of his neck.
I honestly don't remember. I don't remember.
You're gonna have to read that, but either way, we're gonna also have to figure out because their powers grow.
But I also wonder if Dane if he was channeling the power through. I wonder if he couldn't have his power work at the same time.
Well, that's the thing though. Salone did say, "Why does someone like you have so much power?"
To who?
To Dane.
Oh yeah. I don't know, because that's what I'm wondering. So he was channeling power between each other.
I got questions.
But at the same time, he's touching two separate people.
Mm-hmm.
So can he read two people's mind at the same time? Because most of the marked ones have two signets.
Exactly.
So, but he's technically not a marked one, but he could have a second signet.
Yes. He could have a second signet.
Mm-hmm. Because I wonder... Because the whole thing with the dragons thing is really interesting. Because technically, if you have an ancestor who chose your dragon prior, you're supposed to have a second signet.
Yes.
The marked children also have a second signet. So I feel like it's not limited to just them. I feel like more people can have a second signet. So I'm wondering, too...
And since the wards are falling, magic's all disarray right now. Mm-hmm. And because of the war and because more venom are popping up, it's the balance. So you have the equality of the balance?
Sure.
Yeah, we can go with that. But you have that balance where it was even said by Theophany. That's how you pronounce her name. Yes.
I like the pronunciation better.
Someone called her the Cleopatra. Someone called her the Cleopatra, and I was like, I like that. I like that a lot.
My brain never would have made that.
But you know how she said that there has to be a balance. So if the Svenin are getting stronger, the riders have to get stronger.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. The whole balance thing is going to be a key factor in the next two books. The hard thing is like, what I'm not looking forward to is the fact that we don't just have one more book.
We have
We have two more books coming. So much more can happen. And then you get into ONYX Storm, where the entire time they're searching for things and finding new places that they haven't been to.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that things...
The Isles.
Yes. And the fact that they get there and, like, Violet can still hear the dragons. Xaden still can draw from power. There are certain people. The thing is, we don't hear the perspectives of the others of whether or not they still have any kind of source of power.
And Asher Sorengale, Daddy Sorengale, brought Violet not just to one of the Isles, but to all of the Isles of the gods to get blessed by the gods. Mm-hmm. She has been touched, blessed, loved on, gifted by every single god.
But don't worry, Riddick is still part of the squad.
Quest Squad. Where's Broccoli?
Yes, that actually, she did answer that question in one of the interviews. She goes, he's fine. Do you really think I would kill off a cat? Like, she got so offended by
Do you know where she got the orange cat from?
She said it, but I don't remember.
So, little backstory. She has a Maine Coon cat, who's an older female, and her son, she was coming home from a vacation, or a book tour in a different country. She came back, and her second oldest son had brought her downstairs and away from everybody else and pulled a kitten out of his pocket. And it was a little tiny orange ragged kitten. And its name's Boots. And he goes, Can you help me keep this? Can you help explain to Dad that that's okay to keep this? And she goes, why? And he pulls out a tiny little fisherman hat and pops it on the cat, and the ears pop out. And she's like, I can't say no. I can't say no to this. And then he goes on in an elaborate story how the cat was found underneath like the deck or something, and it had half its tail ripped off, but he took it to the vet, got the other half, got it amputated fully, got it cleaned up, got all the vaccines, got everything taken care of, so he was responsible about the kitten.
What child has that resource?
Exactly, but he did it the right way, so she's like, I can't be mad at him. But apparently this cat has burrows inside the walls. Oh, and so she's inside of her brand new home, has had to cut holes out of the wall to get the cat out of.
It's not a cat, it's a rat.
And I died because that is the most orange cat energy ever. And it made me so freaking happy to hear that.
I laughed so hard when they said what his name was, because I have a friend who has 2 orange cats,
yeah.
And she named them Carrot and Clementine, like based off of orange foods. So when she picked Broccoli, I was like, and that's when Mira's arguing, why didn't you pick like Carrot or like a normal name? He goes, just because I knew it'd piss you off.
Yeah, Drake said it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the banter between her and Drake are hysterical.
I think her and Drake actually would be good together, personally.
But, like, let's talk about the scene where they have to friggin' thank them for murdering people. Because that's where he got the cat.
Traeger.
And he had to say thank you. And then what's his face gets the arrow through his heart. And
but Riddick getting kissed.
And Dane getting slapped. And he had to be like, thank you. There's the meme from, it's, oh my God, the movie with Steve Carell, Emma, not Watson.
Stone?
Yes. And Ken, the guy who plays Ken. What is that movie called?
Ryan Gosling?
Yes. It's a rom-com, and there's a scene where all of the guys involved got beat up by each other, and they're all just sitting there on a bench. One has like an ice pack. And then yes. That's one of the memes for when Dane gets slapped and like Riddick and all of them are laughing. It's one of my favorite memes to come of that so far. But like, can you? Zane's like, ha. But sequence of how they did that was like the worst.
It was honestly very. I read a book that was very similar, and I can't remember the name of the book series, but they literally they pulled the cards, and whatever was in the card had to happen to them.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what everyone's laughing about. Well, not laughing, but comparing. So Vampire Diaries, the main guy, male interest, Dimitri, gets turned into a Strogi, which is a type of vampire that's bad. Mm-hmm. And they, like, lose all self-awareness, blah, blah, blah. But there's, like, a bond between him and the main girl, and therefore that's what saved his humanity and brings him back. So that's what everyone's comparing the Vin to, of having Xaden's soul connected to Violet's and possibly her being what brings them back. Or everyone's just going to turn to like a part Venom. God forbid she's pregnant. She's going to have a half mutant baby like freaking Renesmee from Twilight. Sorry. But it's true.
It's true, you know.
Creepy CGI, baby.
That was rough, and I think losing
I don't know where your brain's going on this. What?
who'd we lose?
Trigger?
Trigger, no, the
Mira almost dies.
Mira almost dies, but no, we lost
Quinn.
Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, I know her girlfriend's name's Jax.
So the worst part about this is, like, I finished the book. Jay and I started together-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And then I
got us the book the day before.
She shows up at my front door. Look what I found! And I was like, oh my god, you got them. She even convinced the ladies at Walmart are like, here, take it.
I had to go to customer service.
So I started reading. We both started reading that night, but I ended up getting to start a few chapters ahead. But we were at least on the sequence of reading together.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kept going and asking where she is, and she was like, I haven't got to read. I'm like, no. What? I can't talk to her about it because there's things happening. And so when she got halfway through the book, going through the aisles, and she saw Trigger dying. And I was like, that's not even the worst one. And she goes, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. But then again, it's not ruining and everything because you know there's at least 1 to 5 deaths every book.
But I strictly remember in the beginning of the first book, Quinn going, it's going to be a short friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Because she literally was like, you're going to be my friend. Mm-hmm. It might be a short one, but we'll make it a good one. And then her saying that as her last words. Mm-hmm. I am not going to cry.
Well, that's the funny thing is, like, I told Jay, I was like, the deaths aren't even the worst part of this book.
No.
And then that's when Darna leaves. I was like, that's the worst part of the book to me because she literally had to leave and Violet said, like, that connection just broke her.
Oh my god, that connection broke me, but it also brought me back to, like, New Moon.
Mm-hmm. Bella and the sequence of the year.
Yeah. It hurts so bad to think that Darna would break that bond, but I know she's coming back. I don't know if it's going to be in the next book or the book after.
And that's the thing. I think she's going to
wait until the last book to bring Darna back. I think it's going to be like saving the Grace.
Mm-hmm.
And Darna comes back because Violet's like, Taryn's done. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you've read or heard of any of the songs, because she's Rebecca Yarros
a
makes
lot of
playlists.
them are Taylor Swift songs, and I'm like, those hits to the soul.
Yeah. Have you checked out did any deep dive about the next playlist?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. I started watching or listening, and I was like,
I think something's gonna happen to Taryn,
mm-hmm.
and that's gonna break me hard.
Oh yeah, Taryn's gonna be one. If anything happens to Taryn, that's going to be one of the hardest.
She's going to lose one of her dragons.
But honestly, the thing, if anything happens to Riddick, I'm going to be the most upset.
So Riddick getting stabbed by the cook,
mm-hmm.
my heart started to palpitate because I was like, don't you freaking dare do this to me.
I was going to stop reading.
I was literally saying I would have dropped the book. I would have literally slapped it closed, put it down, and walked away because you're not killing Riddick.
No. And then he was like, I don't like sewing. And I was like, I have never
just beating him.
Related so much to a character.
Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep.
I feel like if I were to be one of the characters, I would probably be Riddick and his dragon.
Atrum.
Yes.
I love their bond. I love them and how they mess around.
You put itching powder in his scales?
Do you know how embarrassing it is to have to wash your scales off in front of other dragons?
Here, get in there. Or in Darna with the turtle. Put that down! Spit it out!
In Darna trying to eat everything is my soul.
That sheep looks nice. The dolphins. I can imagine her going to eat it like a jellyfish. This thing's spicy!
An electric eel. She gets a hold of it.
It's something wrong. She's just being electrocuted over and over again by an eel. She's like, this thing has a bite back.
She's fighting it.
And Taryn's just like, yeah, you deserve that one. And he just walks away.
I think that relationship is fantastic. The amount of patience Taryn has, but also when he goes on his Thor rampage. I am the god of dragons.
And then she just like cuts him off in her head.
Yeah. You're a big, strong, whatever. Can we get to the point now? And he's like,
I had a whole monologue. You threw off my groove.
when he tucks his wings in and starts spiraling down though, and she's just like,
mm-hmm. My favorite though is the fact that Skuggle She doesn't have any say on the parenting. It's all Taryn.
Oh, Sigale.
She just leaves him. She's just like, you got it. And, like, goes. She goes, I have to deal with my pain in the ass over here. You can have both of them.
I know. The fact that we really didn't see her at all in this book, it was really hard. But she was on that beach pacing back and forth, and I felt her rage. I felt every drip of her rage.
She's basically being put in a version that no dragon technically has had to deal with. The fact that she's still so devoted to her rider, but he's changing into a bad thing. And then her so-called husband dragon is very angry about
her
it.
Mate. It's not even her, it's someone.
I like husband dragon better. They're going through marital problems right now over their children. And then their extended children. They literally have 2 sets of children. And Darna and then them.
And Darna, I got this. Talking to the other Irids. Hold on.
Starts telling
Hold my juice back.
Her entire life story. And then Riddick and Violet just signing like they don't know what they're saying.
I know. They're signing like these dragons have no idea that they're talking. Like, you don't think that just because you're doing this, you're not actually saying shit in your head?
Oh, yeah. I think it was hysterical. They're, like, thinking they're having their own secret conversation, and then Indara's just telling them the whole story like Olaf.
And these Arids are just like, what the...
Why did we allow ourselves to be revealed to them?
Because they're supposed to be these peace-loving monks and whatever, but they're most powerful freaking dragons. Like, I understand their point. And where they're coming from about leaving to show humanity, like, you either come together or you lose us. But at the same time, they're like the glue.
Yeah.
If they're gone, humanity doesn't have peace.
And the fact that they can talk to everybody is also like a key factor that I'm curious what's going to come into play. But the hard thing is I still feel like we're not going to find that out until the last book or the last part of the next book. The other crazy thing is like the next book itself has to start with 12 hours prior.
Yeah, that has to.
And that's what the other part, when Jay was getting to the end and she was like talking about the deaths, I go, that's still not the worst part of this entire book. The last part, you literally just end on her like 12 hours of her life are missing, and now he says, I leave it all to you, including his soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the whole first part of the book has to go over the 12 hours. And a lot in this world can happen in 12 hours.
Oh, yeah. The fact that there's 6 dragon eggs missing, there's 4 riders missing, and Xaden goes, my brother, who's seen after me, my new brother, and he's talking about someone who's been with him for the past 5 months of him going through this struggle, or however long, I think it said 5 months.
Yes.
Yeah, it was months, not years. It has to be Bodhi or Garrick who turned.
Well, and the hard thing about it, too, is you have Arik, who, his power also still worked on the Isles.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what else does he have an ability of? Because his power still worked in the whole entire of the Isles. And then when they go back, he's like he's the other missing piece of like, what has he been doing while everyone else was fighting?
Yep. I think the 4 missing riders are Garrick, Bodhi.
I think Bodhi's going to still be there because he's technically still in line for the throne. And someone has... I don't think that Xaden...
Garrick turned.
Yes, but I don't think Xaden would just leave Violet. I think that out of them, he left Bodhi and took Garrett.
Then who are the other 2 missing riders?
Technically, it'd be Arik, and I could maybe...
I think Orc took the eggs to go down to the Isles to try to get help.
Was Riddick there when she woke up?
No.
It has to be one of her friends. Possibly.
Imogen was there. Oh my god, what if it's Rhee?
That's what I'm thinking. I go, there has to be one of their friends that they trust to also be part of that.
Oh, shit.
Because the only person you knew that was next to her was...
Imogen.
You don't know where Mira is.
No.
And she was talking to Brennan when she woke up.
How did Brennan... Because Brennan was also touching the... Brennan's runes on his hands are masking runes. What is he masking? What is he hiding?
He technically could be a Venin.
I think he is Venin.
Himself.
I think he's a Venin, and I think he's the one who's been giving all the information out.
Possibly. I don't know. That's the other thing. I don't think we're going to find any of that out until the last book either. But that's the thing, is you have a sibling that betrays them. I don't know who it is.
What if Daddy Sorrengail's a Venin?
He's still alive. Could be a possibility.
What if Daddy Sorrengail's a Venin?
But they do specifically tell about him dying.
Because what if, because his heart stopped. But what if he brought him to brought Violet to the Isles because he was already turning.
Well, the other thing is how much of the people in the Isles know about what Violet and Xaden did.
Yeah.
That's it. How much does the lady who made the contract know? All the questions.
We have so many questions.
But of course, last, we will not know for another 2.5 years, and this is the downfall of being an avid reader.
Please, with my luck, let me get stuck in an elevator with this woman.
I think it might be more. I might end in a restraining order.
At least I get her signature.
She's really good at deferring questions, though. Like, whenever people are talking about it
I will throw my drink at the damn board on the elevator to get stuck in there. Don't make me.
You're like everybody would be electrocuted, like Andarna eating an eel. Then we never get the book. No! Something would backfire. We won't get the ending. No one will know how it ends.
I need to know. And this is just one of the books. This is just one of the books that comes out this year. Because I still have my other series of Blood and Ash. Series.
There's a lot of others that are coming out. That's the thing. It's like you have to wait.
This is a big year for books.
Yes. Starting off strong with the one that's leaving everyone heartbroken in just January alone.
Ugh. And she did this on purpose.
She did.
She did this on purpose.
She has a very scary mind.
She's a beautiful mind.
With our end of our book talk, we enjoy you guys joining us, but now we will also leave you on a cliffhanger for more enticement of titles.
Yes, of course. Join us next time, because I think next time will be after MegaCon.
Yeah, so we'll talk about our adventures there on that fun exam. There's a lot of people coming, so there'll probably be a lot to discuss when we come back.
There's a lot of people coming. There's a lot of comic creators coming. We're going to get a lot of good stuff, so we will talk to you guys about who we met, what we learned, and...
Will Hunter buy a candle again or not?
My odds say yes.
Probably. Only leave it to my family members to go to a Comic-Con and they come home with a candle and 2 signed Funkos.
we love him. We love him.
He is our child. Anyways, thank you for joining our mayhem.
Bye, Maniacs.
Bye.
We'll see you next week.